Hello everyone, welcome to series on environment and our story today is about the FERI initiative. So from past two videos we have been discussing about the forest topic. So within forest topic now let's turn our attention to forest ecosystem restoration initiative. Forest ecosystems restoration initiative. So why it was in news? The Secretariat to the CBD. Secretariat to the CBD. That is the Convention of Biological Diversity. I'll discuss it in detail. So the Secretariat to the CBD marks the 10th anniversary of the Forest Ecosystem Restoration Initiative. Marks the 10th anniversary of the Forest Ecosystem Restoration Initiative. So this is Convention on Biological Diversity. So Secretariat in the sense what role it provides support to the Secretariat to the CBD provides support to the CBD in order to achieve the goals of CBD. Okay, so it also provides, in the sense it provides administrative support, the technical support, training to the staff, and you can mention as it prepares meetings for the purpose of the COP review meetings. So basically what is COP is you can mention its role to have understanding as to what the Secretariat to the CBD, not particularly with respect to the exam, but I think we need to understand the role. So COP is Conference of Parties, is like, so this Conference of Parties is like what you can say, it's like the supreme decision making body. So all the parties to the convention, like who have agreed upon this convention, so all the parties to the convention, so when I say convention it's like treaty only, I discussed about treaty. So all the parties to the convention, so basically a convention and treaty is like an agreement between two or more different nations, right? So all the parties to the convention, they meet in order to review the implementation. In order to review the implementation of the targets, legal instruments, or you can say the legally binding targets. So that it makes the countries more accountable in order to implement those targets, okay? So if they are legally binding, if they're not followed, those targets are not followed, they'll get punishment for the same in terms of a fine, okay? For example, let's see. So when you say Convention on Biological Diversity, it has three major goals. What are those three major goals? Conservation of biodiversity, conservation of biological diversity, or you can write in biological diversity, and or you can say conservation of biodiversity. Then the second target is, I'm writing here, you can write all at one point. So within conservation, then the sustainable uses of its components, that is the components of biodiversity, use of the benefits or components of biodiversity. Then fair and equitable sharing of benefits. Arising from the use of genetic resources. About FERI I'll discuss, but since CBT came, I am discussing it. So when you say conservation of biological diversity, it can be biodiversity. So consider, for instance, the species recoveries programs that we have is in line with this target of conservation of biological diversity, we can say. Okay. The species recovery program, the Project Tiger, is one of the best examples. We can say all the species recovery programs, the Waiting Buster recovery program, are still are examples of the conservation of biodiversity. And when we say sustainable use of its benefits or components, you see within biodiversity we have, I mean, it can include various components like ecological diversity, which includes various ecosystems, genetic diversity within a species or between different species also, and also species diversity, different species. So ecological diversity means you can mention as different ecosystems as forests, wetlands, oceans, rivers, lakes, like all of them. They're like aquatic ecosystems, again mangroves, coral reefs, wetlands, forests. All of this includes ecological diversity. So species diversity can be different plants, animals. So the sustainable utilization of the benefits or components arising from it. In the sense, you can say within aquatic ecosystem, you need to regulate fishing, that is, overfishing has to be regulated, overgrazing has to be under control, so that grasslands do not get degraded, and also even from the forest we do get a lot of benefits in terms of the medicinal plants that are available, or in terms of food available, and also it provides various ecosystem services as carbon sequestration, climate change mitigation. So then you can say disaster risk management, it is, you can say mangroves helping flood mitigation, all of that. So for all of that to benefit, in order to get the benefit from all of that, like in order to get continually utilize that ecosystem services, in order to the regulation of overfishing, overgrazing, all of that has to be done. That means we need to sustainably utilize them, in the sense it has to be under check, right? We should not, when we say sustainable, as I have clearly mentioned in the previous class, meeting the needs of the present, you can mention as what is sustainable development. Since the word sustainable came, so just I wanted to also talk about sustainable development. You see, when you, so here you can mention agroforestry also, as I have clearly mentioned, that is sustainable uses of its benefits or components. So that is, the components include ecological diversity, genetic diversity, species diversity. So you see, even within species diversity, if a particular plant is having a lot of medicinal value, that has to be sustainably utilized, right? So that even future generations will be able to use it. So the sustainable development is, you can write it as meeting the needs of the present without, I have mentioned, but this sustainable development is actually defined in the Brundtland Commission. So since I reminded it when I was discussing just meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations. To meet its needs. So this was actually found in the Brundtland Commission. This was earlier known as, basically what happened was in 1983, the United Nations started something called the World Commission on Environment and Development. World Commission on Environment Development was started in the year 1983. This was later referred to as the Brundtland Commission. So this Brundtland Commission defined this sustainable development which we are discussing right now, meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet its own needs, be it water resources, be it air, forest ecosystems, anything for that matter, which is related to the nature, like in terms of energy also. Okay, so then when we talk about fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising from the use of genetic resources, what it means is, you see, genetic resources can be utilized for the purpose of drug development. You can write it here. For example, I'm just giving it as an example for the purpose of drug development. So if certain genes are induced, so if certain genes are combined, like, it can result in the development of a particular drug. So in order to utilize it, or I mean, you can also say, in order to utilize the genes, so consider, for instance, for the development of a particular drug in pharmaceutical industry, what happens is, in terms of in pharmaceutical industry, for the purpose of development of a particular drug, they might have to take the help of a particular plant, extract of a particular plant. The genetic resource of that particular plant might be required. So for all of that, they need to take permission from the local community or the particular country. If it is a foreign country, or they need to take permission from the local community. So basically what happens is, when they take permission from the local community, and if they develop the drug by taking the permission, that is, the prior informed consent is required. Not going to discuss that in detail, but for now understand that a prior informed consent is means they need to agree in order to utilize that particular resource. So, and when they use that particular resource for the development of the drug, and if that pharmaceutical company develops the drug, basically what happens is, it might get some profit if it is being used for the purpose of commercial usage. So basically, between the provider, that is the one who develops this pharmaceutical company, and the one who provides this, allows for this usage of this particular genetic resource, they'll have some mutually agreed terms, okay, between them. You can write it as mutually agreed terms. So basically what happens is, when they get some profit, say, consider for instance, some 10% out of the profit has to be given to these local people. That means it is the fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising from the use of genetic resources. That's what's happening here. The company is getting its fair share, and along with that, the local community people who have who obviously have the rich knowledge of the particular traditional knowledge regarding the traditional knowledge of that particular plant. So both of them are getting benefit. That is fair and equitable sharing of the benefits arising from the use of genetic resources, because they're getting that 5% of the profit, maybe some 5%, 10%, which they usually discuss in the mutually agreed terms. Okay. So this is all about the convention on biological diversity. So this convention on biological diversity came into force, or entered into force, in December 1993, and initially it was opened for signature at Rio Earth Summit, which took place in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Janeiro. And it was opened in the year 1992. It was opened for signature. Right, it is. So it is a legally binding multilateral treaty. All the except UN, all other countries, is 192 countries are parties to this. They have ratified this treaty. So coming to this point of FERI, Forest Ecosystem Restoration Initiative, is launched as a partnership between the Korea Forest Service and CBD Secretariat. So it basically is like, it focuses on operationalizing national. I'll discuss the rest in the next class actually. Time is up. Thank you. Stay tuned for more updates.